I think we're on video. We're still on video, don't worry. We can get everyone in. Cheer up, Gerry, we're on holiday. Cheer up, Gerry, we're on holiday. Cheer up, Gerry, we're on holiday.
Hunt, of course, was working for the Germans and was very keen on British membership of the EEC, and it was Hunt and Heath between them who were responsible for Britain going to the EEC, along with another German spy exposed in Spy Hunter called Tony Barber.
Now, you're painting a picture of lots of sort of high-level paedophile characters in the centre of government. What on earth purpose would that serve?
Oh, if someone is inclined in that direction and you can supply them with boys, then you've got a hold on them, or girls. There's nothing worse for a politician than being exposed in the murder and sexual abuse of young people. And if you've got a politician who is abusing and killing young girls and boys, boys or girls, then you've got a hold on them. This has been a standard German intelligence tactic for decades.
Well, surely it's not just the Germans. I mean, the British intelligence surely are using these kinds of tactics. Any intelligence service will want to.
No, we're the good guys. I mean, MI5 and MI6 don't do murder. Obviously, occasionally it's necessary to take people out, but that's always done by independent contractors. We're the good guys.
You're English, you would say that, wouldn't you?
Well, I am British. I'm in favour of the British, and I certainly count myself as a patriotic Englishman, and I am a Britisher, yes. But we are the good guys, and one of the reasons why we're the good guys is we don't approve of the killing of children. We would never get British intelligence setting up a shooting like the Sandy Hook shooting in the United States, which again was set up by the Germans via Mexico. And a bunch of crazy Mexican drug gangsters rolling up to a school shooting up the kiddies. I mean, it's just absolute nonsense. British intelligence would never touch an operation like that with a barge pole.
I mean, you said yourself that parts of British intelligence have been infiltrated by other countries. So, I mean, you know, how can you say we would never do such a thing?
Ah, well, then it's not we, is it? If a German, let's take the assassination of David Kelly, that was done by GO2, which is the German operation in London. And you've got German assets inside Thames Valley Police, for example. Where you've got Brits working for the Germans, then you, in my view, is you blame the Germans. You don't blame the Brits, because the Germans are paying them or blackmailing them. Paedophilia is a wonderful means, if you're a hostile intelligence agency, of blackmailing politicians. The reason it's particularly disgusting, quite aside from the element of sexual abuse and coercion and corruption of young people, that's disgusting in and of itself. But what makes it particularly vile, and we saw this in the Madeline McCann case, and that's why the Madeline McCann case was so heartbreaking and tragic. If the children are, and I'm afraid with paedophilia we sometimes have babies being abused, but if you're not talking babies, if you're talking toddlers who are able to recognize the people who are abusing them, since the people, there's absolutely no point doing it unless the politician is high profile. Since you're talking about people who are on television, people who are high profile, you have to murder the children in order to protect your asset. So for the Germans, it was essential that the boys that were being taken onto the yacht, that was a death ride. When Jimmy Savile was taking, let's say, a 14-year-old boy down to Morning Cloud, handing him over to Edward Heath or a member of the crew on the yacht, it was a death ride. That was that boy's last journey on Earth, because there was no way in the world, recognizing Edward Heath, that he could be allowed back on shore. And Savile must have known this, and that's partly why Savile was probably deeply into religion. You often find this, in fact, that where people get involved in murder, their consciences start to eat at them, and they suddenly turn to religion late in life, and Savile, certainly there are signs that he did that. It's quite a nice thing about human beings. We generally find murder very difficult. It's a lot more difficult to do than you might think reading spy novels. He'd also hit, I'm sure, at Edward Heath. Because you've got to murder the kiddies in order to protect your asset, supplying of children to paedophile politicians is an extremely messy, murderous, dangerous business. The case of Madeline McCann, as I reveal in Spy Hunter, it was in my report to the Joint Intelligence Committee, which was put on the website disgracefully by the Daily Mirror a few years ago. In the case of Madeline McCann, she was going to be abused by a senior member of the European Commission in Brussels, whose name is known to British intelligence. I can't identify him in Spy Hunter, but I do know who it is. And there was no way that Madeline could ever be returned alive to her family, because the danger would be that even at her tender age of 4, she would recognise him and know who was abusing her. So the Germans had to murder her, and indeed they eventually did, sadly, in December 2008. In the case of Madeline McCann, she was going to be abused by a senior member of the European Commission in Brussels, whose name is known to British intelligence. The Germans had to murder her, and indeed they eventually did, sadly, in December 2008. So the Germans had to murder her, and indeed they eventually did, sadly, in December 2008. So the Germans had to murder her, and indeed they eventually did, sadly, in December 2008.